A familiar face making a return to prime time starting Monday. Our parent company, Cable News' channel News Nation, bringing you Elizabeth Vargas reports at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday.
And she also hosts iCrime, which is seen right here on PIX11 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So joining us this morning on the PIX11 right now is Elizabeth Vargas. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Hey,
thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be. iCrime's on at 2 and 2:30.
Oh,
there you go.
double
Yeah,
run on
full
PIX.
hour.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back.
Well, first, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
the new show here on News Nation. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's news of the day. It is
Okay.
the sort of the signature centerpiece newscast for News Nation every day. It's on from 6 to 7. We'll cover the biggest stories that are happening that day, but thoroughly and in depth with lots of live interviews. It's not. I used to anchor World News Tonight on ABC. It's not an hour-long version of that show. It's more interview-driven, and we'll go deeper. I think by 6 p.m., people have watched your shows and other newscasts. They know what's happening. They don't need a headline. They need more like an in-depth look at the biggest stories of the day.
A deep dive.
Absolutely. And, you know, News Nation really priding itself on not taking a side, right? No political bias.
Right.
And so you're doing so many of these interviews. How do you plan to handle that when you look at some of the cable news right now and it's so divided?
It is so divided, and there's a lot of shouting, and it's very extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know this from studies, from polls that have been done, that 10% of the people sort of live in the far right universe and 10% on the far left, and 80% are sort of the forgotten majority, the people right smack in the middle, people who are center left, center right, and are looking for more thoughtful, in-depth news analysis, and that's what we hope to bring them with this show. You know, already this is a brand new news network. It's kind of exciting. But we're already being rated by news watchdog groups as being the #1 cable news network when it comes to lack of bias and fairness. So we take great pride in that.
So do you think that's what's going to make the show stand out, or is it even more than that?
I think that will make the show stand out. I think the experience that I and the rest of my team bring, and we have a whole, you guys know this is a small business. It's a small swimming pool. We all jump back and forth. But we have a team, you know, that hails from ABC News, CBS, NBC News, CNN, Fox News. We come from all different networks, but all bring a lot of experience. So we really hope to use that experience to put on a show that's really, really smart and thorough and fair.
Yeah, I mean, and you have such a storied career, right? Working so many different places, but you bring such a personal connection and touch to some of your interviews. I've watched you from early stages of my journalism career.
Oh, thank you.
And you bring this passion to these interviews as well. Can you talk a little bit about your style and how you conduct an interview and what you bring to it?
I basically study my butt off about whatever the issue is or the person is that I'm going to interview, and then I have what's called an educated conversation in my mind. I don't really write a lot of questions. I will do that, but then I don't think looking down at a piece, if you're reading your next question, you're not listening to the answer, and sometimes you miss really nuggets of gold there. A lot of times somebody will say something and I'll go off on a tangent, following that string or thread, so to speak. I love doing interviews. It's my favorite part of what I do.
Same.
It has been since I was in local news.
And do you know what I think a lot of people love about you, Elizabeth, is that you've always been very open about yourself, about your personal struggles in life, and how you've really come out of all of that. So much stronger and bigger and better than you ever were before. How much of that will you bring to the table too?
I intend to really shine a light on the mental health crisis in this country. I suffered from anxiety my whole life. I have a son, I have 2 sons, one of whom suffers also from anxiety. We know statistically that tens of millions of Americans suffer from anxiety and depression. Tens of millions of Americans suffer from substance use disorder. And the vast majority do not get help for either of these things because of the stigma. They're afraid to raise their hand and tell somebody they need help, that they're suffering. And I think the more we can talk about this in a thoughtful, responsible way, the more we can chip away slowly but surely at that stigma. I fully intend to cover this, and it's in the news. We have Senator Fetterman right now seeking help, taking a leave of absence from the Senate to get his severe depression treated. I think it's important to talk about this. We can't, and without falling into political talking points. This is a human issue, and it affects everybody in all parts of this country, from both Democratic and Republican parties and those in the middle. It affects everybody, and I really hope to shine a light on that.
So important.
It really is.
Thank you. I've often said for a long time, I've talked about it here on the local level, struggles with anxiety and afraid to talk about it, and now not afraid to talk about it anymore because it's one of those things that you got to break the stigma.
You have to.
Local level, your level as well. So thank you for that. Any big names? Any big guests next week you want to?
Oh my gosh,
ahead?
who knows? Like the entire world, we're watching what's happening with
Right.
President Trump and this indictment. I mean, there's going to be it looks like no indictment this
Right.
week, so maybe it's next week on
Right.
our debut week. But my gosh, I mean, even like who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
Nobody knew that yesterday's news and the day before's news would be dominated by this terrible tragedy in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it is, we really are covering
Yeah.
the news of the day. And my gosh, what a news cycle, you guys. We're all
I know.
working in this incredible time in this country and in the world with what's going on. So to be able to cover it is a real privilege.
Yeah, absolutely.
So great to have you on.
It's great to have you.
And best of luck with the show.
Congrats on the new set.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
is yours.
Yes.
Oh my
So
gosh,
excited.
come on up anytime. we'll swap sets one day and see
Literally
if the
neighbors,
viewers
by the way.
notice.
Just in case, we're literally neighbors.
We're neighbors.
Side by
We're
side
down the hall.
studios. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Elizabeth Vargas Report starts Monday, everybody, on News Nation, 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to check where to find News Nation, by the way, on your system, all you got to do is go to newsnation.com.